Okay, distance and positioning go hand in hand, okay? So you can avoid any punch just by creating distance. That's the safest way to engage your opponent. When you're done attacking, you just create space. And now your opponent is going to have to chase you to land a punch on you, okay? So when you are at long range outside the distance, you can just walk, right? Your footwork is just walking and shuffle steps. These little L steps, they're just basically, it's basically just a variation of a shuffle step. Okay? So when you are at long range, meaning like he's nowhere near you, just move around the ring, that's what you can do, okay? When you start to engage your opponent, that's where your stance comes in, okay? So now you're in your traditional boxing stance. This is just outside of the pocket, okay? This is the starting position. Look, my lead foot is pointing at my target. That is basically my lead foot is pointing at his lead foot if he's also orthodox. Okay? So it's orthodox versus orthodox. Southpaw versus orthodox, that's a whole nother video. There's tons of videos about foot positioning there, about that topic. But there's not a lot about this, about just regular orthodox versus orthodox or southpaw versus southpaw. There's not a lot of information on positioning, so that's, kind of what I'm talking about today. So if you look, my lead foot, this is the starting position. Lead foot pointing at my opponent's lead foot, okay? I'm trying to get just outside of range so I can draw a punch or, land my own punches. So here I got the jab. I can maybe get a 2 in there and get back out, right? But to land like a combination, right, I'm gonna have to get into the pocket, at least a little bit. I'm gonna have to dip my toe in the pocket, okay? So what is the pocket? The pocket is mid-range to close range, because I lump them two together because the whole strategy kind of changes at that point. So at this starting position, we're at just outside of range, right? This is long range starting position, right? If I want to disengage, if, I don't see an opening, I know he's going to eventually just throw, he might be setting me up. You just pull back and move around a little bit, right? Maybe sneak one in, but then you go right back, to engaging your opponent. You wouldn't move around way outside range in your stance like this. This is too much energy. It's just pointless. You're going to be too slow. You're going to waste too much energy, okay? So just moving around, walking. Now I'm engaging, okay? So once I'm here, starting position. Again, I'm going to have to get at least a little bit into the pocket. So watch this. Boom, boom, boom. Now I'm like dipping my toe in the pocket. So here's the pocket. Now my target is in between my feet, okay? So now this is mid-range. The pocket is mid-range all the way to smother range, okay? So the whole strategy here, look at my hips. I'm basically squared up with my target. You see that? I can move to one side or the other. I can roll, right? You're gonna have to dip and roll because at this range, this is hook uppercut range. So now you got hooks, straights, and uppercuts. You got to worry about every punch. And you're closer to your opponent. You're not going to be able to tell which punch he's throwing. All you're going to be able to see is which side is it coming from. So if I got my head over here, I know any punch he throws is coming from over here. So anything he does, I can just dip. I can crash in, dip, you know, and get out, whatever I want to do. But I can dip, roll, now I'm over here. Look, I pin. So at this range, not only do you get more square, it's more of a wrestling kind of fight. Because you want to control your opponent, because again, it's so dangerous. It's the most dangerous place to be, but you got to learn how to fight here because 90% of exchanges end up in the pocket. Watch any fight. Just pick any boxing match at random and count how many times they end up in the pocket. Every exchange, almost every exchange is going to end up in the pocket, okay? The only time it doesn't is when you're at the starting position and you can catch him off guard and maybe land a 1-2 and then get out. That's not going to happen every time. If that happens every time, congratulations, you win that fight very easily. And you know, that would be great if you could do that every time, but that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is when I have to step in, I end up in the pocket here, at least like dipping my toe in like this, where I can land maybe my shot and then roll out. But realistically, when I go to attack, he goes to attack. He's either going to attack or try to get away. If he pushes into attack, we end up basically here anyways. So watch any fight. Almost every exchange, one fighter attacks, the other one tries to attack or counter, you know, and they end up in the pocket. And then, you know, like I was saying, the whole strategy is different now. Now we want to control our opponent. We got to worry about hooks and uppercuts, but now we can push all the way in, get very close. But the pace gets very high, okay? If you're not going to fight in the pocket, just push in and hold, okay? But if you plan to fight, it's going to be high pace. You can't be resting in this mid-range here. You either need to get all the way in or get all the way out. So when you're in this mid-range, it's very dangerous, but you got to learn how to fight here. Okay, so long range, distance and positioning, they go hand in hand, okay? So at long range, look at my position. Starting position, I'm not standing sideways, okay? This bladed, completely bladed like this is a bad position. Maybe at long range like this, you know, maybe you'll sneak some jabs in, but when your starting position, your stance, your lead foot's lined up with your opponent's lead foot. I'm standing at an angle. Okay, I'm not sideways. I'm not completely square up. I'm at like a 45-degree angle. So boom, boom. When I push over to the pocket here, let me get over here. Sorry, see? So now when I push over to the pocket, now my hips are basically square to my opponent. That's how you know it's the pocket. When the boxer's hips are square to each other. So again, I would probably push in a little bit closer to get more control over my opponent here. Okay, you can roll. You're gonna have these big rolls because again, you don't know which punch it's gonna be. Gotta have a little bit bigger kind of head movement. Boom, land your punch, and then create space, get back out. Okay. Again, from the starting position on the outside here, This is 90% of the stuff you hear about boxing is talking about this. But everybody ignores all the pocket stuff. You got some people tell you to never square up. Like, that's ridiculous. Squaring up is part of fighting. I don't care. It's a boxing match. It's a fight, okay? It's a fight with rules. You're gonna have to square up because, like I was saying, watch any boxing match. Pick anyone at random. Watch. 99% of exchanges are gonna end up in that pocket, okay? So when you're on the outside here, this is what everybody's talking about. I'm standing at an angle to my opponent. I can have my lead hand down because the punches are coming from over here. I have time to react to them. Okay? Once I get into the pocket, you know, now my hips are square to my opponent. My target's in between my legs, basically. It's in between my legs. Now I got the full range of head movement. I got both hands for offense and defense, okay? So keep that in mind. You are most dangerous from the squared up position because you got every punch. You got all this head movement. There's a reason why Mike Tyson stood like this, squared up, right? There's a reason why Mexican fighters square up like this because they're pushing forward. They're pushing you into the pocket, okay? They're going to make you fight their fight, which is up close. You know, up close, grappling, Mexican style, right? Same thing with Mike Tyson. These really aggressive fighters, they want this squared up position, right? You have to do both. That's basically what I'm saying here, okay? So practice both, right? You got your outside stuff, the starting position here. I got time to see which punch he's gonna throw. Plus at long range, I know that most likely he's gonna be throwing straight punches. If he throws a hook, I got even more time to react to it, right? But at this range, it's mostly going to be straight punches. I have time to see what it is, okay? But again, I can sneak in, maybe land one shot or blah, 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 but that's not going to happen all the time. I might do that, and then he pushes forward, and he puts me in the pocket, okay? So that's the fight, okay? That's what you guys are trying to do. You're controlling when and where you fight in the pocket. So again, watch some boxing, watch it in slow motion. Think about it from the fighter's perspective, okay? They might look like they're standing sideways to each other, okay? It looks like that sometimes. But when you think about it from the fighter's perspective, they're here. Lead foot pointing at his lead foot at an angle to each other. Look. If I stand, I look super bladed, you know, depending on where you're looking from. I might look super bladed, but from my point of view, from the fighter's point of view, look, my hips, I just stepped in, hips square, okay? So distance and positioning, they go hand in hand. So think about, think about the difference between long range and then the pocket. And watch some boxing, watch it in slow motion, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Like the video, sub the channel.